Welcome everyone. So happy to have you here for another presentation of the Classroom Learning Series with Green and Healthy Schools, Wisconsin. We're very fortunate to have Skyward as our sponsor for the series. So let's take a moment to thank Skyward.
Since our humble beginnings as a small family business, Skyward has evolved into a global technology leader serving more than 2,000 school districts. At Skyward, we are proud to support the initiatives of the Green and Healthy Schools Classroom Learning Series.
Presenting today, we have Michael Tim from the nonprofit Reflow, which does amazing and really inspiring work with schools in the Milwaukee area. And Michael today is presenting on a topic that involves natural resources, specifically water, as well as some technology. Thank you to Michael and to Reflow for presenting for the Classroom Learning Series.
Have you ever heard a dream you were flying over the earth? Or watched the classic Eames film Powers of 10? Are you motivated to share engaging, interdisciplinary experiences that resonate in our new virtual world? Hi, my name is Michael Tim. I curate the Milwaukee Community Map for the nonprofit Reflow. It's an honor and a privilege to share this free and amazing resource with you. Let's get started. The Milwaukee Community Map focuses on the Milwaukee area, but includes Great Lakes and Wisconsin resources as well. You can access the map in Google Earth Pro on desktop. We also have web maps and web videos. Check out the link. Let's find the Milwaukee Community Map. We can Google it and go to our web page. A quick reminder that we have a lot of helpful resources beyond the webinar to show you how to use the map. So I want to point out that what I'm doing in the webinar is also in this really handy PDF, One-Page User's Guide to Google Earth. So I'd recommend you pull that up, have it as a reference for you, and go ahead and save that PDF, or you can always come back to the website to find it. I also want to suggest we've got this great one-page discussions guide that is useful to help guide you through the content of the map. So maybe some of these are appropriate for your students, maybe some aren't, but this gives you a great first pass at what you could explore, because there's so much that you could explore. And then we have a even more detailed teacher's guide that has a whole bunch of suggestions, themed activities under the themes of watersheds, history, civics, green infrastructure, positive change. And so just to walk you through where that is, again, this is its PDF right off the main page, Guide to the Map. But what I'll be doing today is kind of walking through some of this watersheds, history, civics, green infrastructure, positive change. I'll be kind of walking through this Easy Explore Pathway. So these are guides to remind you how you could use the map to build a narrative. If you haven't already, go ahead and download Google Earth to your computer. You want to take this one down, download Google Earth Pro on desktop. That's the one you want. I already have it, so I'm not going to do that here, but do that step. Do not do this one for this point in time. You're going to go ahead and download our network link to the Milwaukee Community Map. It's going to be a file. It's going to look like this on wherever you put your downloads. And when you open up Google Earth by double-clicking on it or double-clicking on the file, you're going to get something that looks like this. And we're going to go ahead and clean up some of this view so that it's optimized for your experience. Some very handy tips to make your experience in Google Earth a lot easier. You might have a sightseeing tour up here when you open it up first time. Go ahead and close that. If there's anything else under My Places, you can delete that to get it out of your way. This is the sidebar. This is our main viewing area. To reduce clutter, I like to go ahead and to begin, turn off all the stuff under here. That'll turn off any of the clutter that's going to be on your screen, and you can just minimize this by pushing that out of the way for now. We'll come back to that later. The Milwaukee Community Map link is going to pop up over here, but for now we're just going to tweak a few things to make your view and experience even better. Important, but you might not know how to do this if you didn't have the tutorial. Really important, go ahead and click on Do Not Automatically Tilt While Zooming. That's going to make it a lot easier to navigate in Google Earth. Make sure that it's not reverse controls. That'll make it easier for you to scroll in and out on the machine. And then go ahead and go to General and click on Show Web Results in External Browser. That's going to let you, anything you click on, it'll go ahead and open up in a browser window, which will be much helpful. So we'll go ahead and hit OK on that. Then we're going to go ahead and, we don't need this toolbar for viewing, so we're going to get rid of that to make it a little bit nicer. And we don't need the navigation if we're using our mouse and our scroll wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on to never. Some people like to use that, but what I'm doing is using my mouse and scrolling in and out, and that can be pretty handy. Triangles open stuff up so you can see what's in it. If you click on checkboxes, they turn stuff on, so it will be active. If we double click on a file, or a folder I should say, it's going to zoom in to that preferred view. So here we're zooming into Milwaukee for the Milwaukee Community Map, and it's pretty awesome. Here we are. So in the Milwaukee Community Map, we have it organized by stories, base maps, and deeper dives. So if we light up the map, it's going to open up or turn on water stories and base maps. The nice thing about the map and how it's organized is you can toggle these on and off. So right now, if I want to put on a story layer on top of the watersheds, here I just put on the Green Luminaries videos. It goes on top of the watersheds. Or water passport sites from Doors Open Milwaukee. It goes on top of the watersheds. Or lake-friendly businesses, the ones that have vowed not to use plastic in some ways, on top of watersheds. Or if I can change that context by going under base maps and decide, well, maybe I want to look at where historic waterways were and turn that on. Maybe I want to look at where the sewer system is, the combined and the separated, and turn that on. And then I can always come back up here and change the story layer that goes on top of the base maps. So that's the organizing principle of the Milwaukee Community Map, and is handy to keep in mind as we explore. So what's great, of course, about the Milwaukee Community Map is that it uses the power of Google to let us find where we are. So let's say we wanted to go to our school. We could just type in the search box an address or a place, and it has all the power of Google Maps to show us where that is. And we can then contextually understand, oh look, this is near a border condition. What might that mean? This is near the boundary between two watersheds, and that's a conversation starter. So where is your school in relation to our watersheds? Or where are your students' homes in relation to our watersheds is an awesome question that you can address. We also can zoom way out to a regional context, the Great Lakes Basin. Where are the United States in relation to the Great Lakes? Where are the Great Lakes states? Where does water flow when it falls on this side of the line or this side of the line? What happens? And so this is a great way to talk not only about hydrology, but social studies issues such as the Great Lakes Compact. Okay, so let's think about how else we can use the watersheds context on the map to understand, explore, and inquire about the system. So in the Milwaukee area, again, you can look at where you are in relation to these watersheds and have a conversation. A watershed, of course, as our narrator Miranda, our storyteller, tells us, is the area of land that drains into a body of water. And they're identified here by these colored areas, with the main river and stream systems shown within. So it's an intuitive way to understand that if the land that's covered by these colored areas drains into those blue bodies of water, which then ultimately flows into Lake Michigan. This is, again, the Milwaukee area. You can zoom to wherever you are. If we wanted to talk about things like the Great Lakes Compact and the Great Lakes Basin Divide, we have this. First of all, you could double click on the watersheds to pull us out to this Great Lakes Basin layer, which I was showing you earlier. We can also turn on this handy layer that shows us in Wisconsin where are the subwatersheds on either side of that Great Lakes Mississippi River System divide. So depending on where your school is, you can have a conversation about where does water flow when rain falls in this area. Ultimately, it's going to go into the Mississippi River System. If it falls in this area, ultimately it's going to go into the Great Lakes Basin, into the Great Lakes System, which then flows out, because the lakes are like a giant river, through the St. Lawrence to the Atlantic Ocean. Whereas on this side, it's going to go into the Mississippi River System. So Google Earth is a great way to have that conversation, and what we've done is identify the basin boundary. So no matter where your school is in Wisconsin, you can have that kind of conversation and then connect with other areas. We also identified for for folks in southeastern Wisconsin and central eastern Wisconsin, focused around Port Washington, all these different sub-watersheds. So again, even if you're not in Milwaukee, this helps to really hammer home the point of what is a watershed, and again, where is my watershed, or where am I in relation to a watershed. They have this nice hover over. If you happen to be in the Great Lakes, in the Mississippi Riverside, sort of through here, through the south central Wisconsin, the same applies. You can zoom in and it'll highlight, where are these watersheds and where are these river systems. So this is really a great contextual tool. And again, you can put in your own search parameters here. So if I wanted to type in Waukesha, maybe I'm trying to have a conversation with my students about the Great Lakes Compact and the Waukesha diversion, I can have that conversation aided by a map. All right, one of the other awesome things about the Milwaukee Community Map in Google Earth is to be able to not only look at geographic context, but also historical context. So this is the Milwaukee area, and I've turned on the roads for helping us to understand kind of where we are. And then I've turned on the historic water layer, which is based on the surveyors, the federal land surveyors who came through before Wisconsin was a state. And they walked these transects, and then they jotted down in the notebooks what they saw. If we click on this, we can see, for example, that in the Menominee Valley area of Milwaukee, they found in 1835, they called it a black ash swamp. So you can have all kinds of historical context conversations with your students about what is here now versus what used to be here. How did water used to flow? How did it then change over the course of the 1800s towards the 1900s? This is the USGS survey from around the 1890s to 1900, and a great conversation about, okay, well, how did that change? Look at how this is different now. What's different? Where is water flowing now? And then you can progress into the conversation about today we basically have artificial water flowing systems. So the sewer system now conveys water in this urban area. We can look at just the boundaries of where the combined sewer area is, and for urban areas around the Great Lakes and throughout the United States, a combined area puts both wastewater and stormwater into the same pipes, which then can have an advantage in that you're cleaning all of that water, but it's a disadvantage when it gets overwhelmed by heavy rains like we have under climate change. We can also take a look at a little bit more detailed infrastructure in the Milwaukee area, the deep tunnel, which is an underground, like a giant bathtub that holds onto all that water so that we don't have as many overflows. That was constructed over the 80s and 90s. And we can kind of see like where that is. And then if there were to be an outfall or an overflow, where would that water be coming out? Because these are all the outfall locations. So a great way to have context about like where's my water going. So what's awesome about the Milwaukee Community Map is you can also explore social and political and civic and other historical base maps. So here we have the Milwaukee City of Neighborhoods based on John Gerda's book. So you click on these and you get a little blurb and the wonderful poster from Historic Milwaukee about the different Milwaukee neighborhoods. You can look beyond the city of Milwaukee for access to our waterways with the Urban Water Trail. And just in terms of local civics, where is the city? Where are the aldermanic districts? Who represents the different districts, which are sometimes hard to identify because there are these crazy boundaries, right? Which can open up a conversation about how do those boundaries get there and who's represented by whom. We have state assembly districts, senate districts, so that does encompass the entire state of Wisconsin. So you can click to identify what number it is and then Google to find who your person is. Yeah, so it's a great resource for like where am I in relation to that system. I'm going to go ahead and remind us all that you can find, if you're a school in southeastern Wisconsin, under Greening Schools, we have the entire K-12 schools in southeastern Wisconsin data set up here. So you should be able to find your public, private, or charter school in the southeastern Wisconsin area and overlap that on any of these base maps that I'm toggling through. So for example, the assembly districts or the senate districts. Or the aldermanic districts in the city of Milwaukee to understand your relationship to that system and have your students explore that as well. I'll leave that up there just so you can see the overlay for now, because you can also cross it with other maps like historic redlining. So that's a totally different another topic that we can go into, but I just want to point out that we have a number of historic maps you can take a look at. The Sanborn maps are really awesome to see how things changed over time. If you're not familiar with those, I highly recommend you take a look at them. Again, it'd be a subject for a whole nother talk. They show building conditions in the early 1900s in Milwaukee. We also have demographic maps based on U.S. Census data for race, income, and education. And if you click on the different census tracts, it gives you a breakdown of what the colors are telling you. And there's a lot of conversations that could be developed off of that. Let's take a look at one of the deeper dives, the habitat hotspots, which is kind of like an interactive museum experience. This is based off of School of Freshwater Sciences research. And you see there's different hotspot areas. If I zoom in to one of them by using my scroll mouse, it's going to bring up this beautiful illustrated bathymetric map along with these clickable fish silhouettes. If I click on one of them, it's going to show me what the fish is with a beautiful illustration of the fish, what the fish eats, where the fish likes to live, and the vegetation associated with it. And so each of these fish have different criteria, and it's a great kind of baseball card way of getting a sense of, hey, there are fish right in the Milwaukee area. What are they? What do they need to live well? What can I find out about the habitat that's going on right in my backyard? So this is a really cool map, and it's an example of how these deeper dives are organized. We don't have time to go in depth on any of these right now because they are kind of like museum exhibits, but I encourage you to explore them, take a look at them, and there's historical ones based on John Goethe's City Built on Water. Let's go down here and turn on these fancy 3D layers. Zoom into Milwaukee just so you can see how you can have an awesome experience with some of the 3D imagery in the downtown area. For example, I'm zooming in, and then I'm going to pull down on my mouse by holding the central wheel down to pivot, and we can see the lakefront with the Milwaukee skyline, and I'm holding the pivot to take a look at Lakeshore State Park and Veterans Park and the Art Museum, and it's a really cool, engaging way to connect your students with, like, oh, this is what we see in our landscape. So one of the things I like to do in Google Earth is go ahead and zoom to Niagara Falls with the 3D layers on, because it gives you a really great sense of how the lakes really are all a connected system, and they're flowing down ultimately towards the Atlantic Ocean. This is the 3D imagery of Niagara Falls in Google Earth. And when we zoom back out, you can see how this whole system is connected, draining into the Atlantic Ocean. The other thing I like to show is the Aral Sea, and it lets us make a pretty awesome comparison with what happened over time. So if I go to historical imagery, we can see the 2016 aerial imagery, but if we go back to 1973, we can see that there was a lot more lake. And what happened was, over time, intensive agricultural withdrawals in the former Soviet Union dried this inland sea up to the point where it's become this cautionary tale about how to manage water systems, because water is a finite resource. So talking about the Great Lakes, it underscores the value of the Great Lakes Compact to keep that water within the basin. We have web videos and we have web maps that you can access right in the browser. So this is a great overview of the water-centric city, flies you through all different areas of the map. We have historical, Jones Island story, the habitat hotspot story, historic water recreation story, the area of concern, the Milwaukee estuary, what that means, and what are the good works going on to fix it, etc. We also have a number of web maps which you can get right in the browser. So if we click on those, you'll see that you get a little bit of context, and then you can go ahead and open it up in a new window if it's easier to navigate. And each of these, for example, the green luminaries, has a web video associated with it. So all these green luminaries are doing something amazing for our waters. They might be public, they might be private, they might be community groups, but they're all doing something green infrastructure related um, to make a difference for our waterways. And so we have the watersheds in the background here to give that context. But you can imagine it might be meaningful to have your students explore some of those and compare them, contrast them, figure out what's going on there, report on them, and that's available right in the browser. So another handy thing about the web maps that is meaningful is you can go ahead and click to help orient. You can click on map or satellite. So satellite gives you the kind of feel of the aerial view, but map can help you by showing where the streets are. So I encourage you to explore the Milwaukee Community Map on your own. Feel free to email me any questions or reach out if you're interested in a presentation. Um, I'm happy to give those. We have an engagement menu where you can contact Reflow to figure out what might work best for you, for your classroom. We also have the Milwaukee Story Mapper, which under the student showcase link you can see is a way to use the web to make your own interactive story maps or to have your students or a group of students do that. We've had an example of at Escuela Verde High School. They did a sewershed mapping exercise, activity I should say, where they went and mapped their local sewershed, took some pictures of water quality impacts, drew some boundary conditions of where they thought this area would drain into this alley, into this catchment that was going to be treated with green infrastructure. 3 different teams went out and saw it and did different things. So Reflow can help your school do this kind of activity if that's of interest, or you can use that model or other models to build your own interactive maps that work in Google Earth. So this is a great tool for that, but we'd be happy to work with classes that are really motivated and interested in doing that.
Thanks, Michael. That is an awesome set of tools to use to help people explore their water story. And I really hope that all of you watching today will take some time and use that tool and explore and have those conversations about how our lives intersect with the water around us. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you'll check out all of our other videos in the Classroom Learning series.